The girl who once stuffed garbage into my locker and laughed while I cried in the bathroom. Now calls me ma'am at work. My name is Olivia Grant. I'm 29 years old. I have a corner office, a reserved parking spot with my name on it, and more LinkedIn endorsements than I can count. I'm the senior director of marketing at one of the fastest-growing firms in Chicago. And today Karma walked through my office door wearing 4-inch heels and a name badge that made my heart stop. But let's rewind. High school wasn't cruel to me in a general sense, it was surgical. Calculated. Came in the form of one girl. Amanda Lee. She was popular. Pretty. Mean. The kind of mean that didn't just want to hurt you, she wanted an audience while she did it. I still remember the day she poured soda into my gym bag. The way the entire locker room erupted into laughter while I stood frozen, sticky and humiliated. The day she convinced the volleyball coach I was sneaking answers during tryouts, getting me kicked off the team. That was the final blow. Sports were my outlet. My only escape. And the worst part? No one ever stood up for me. Teachers turned away. Friends fell silent. Even I learned to stop fighting back. But I never forgot. What no one knew back then, not Amanda, not the school, not even my family, was that every insult, every prank, every eye roll became fuel. Quiet fuel. Slow burning. And over time it turned into something fierce. I buried myself in books. In night classes. In temp jobs where I worked 2 phones and ate lunch at my desk. I worked hard, harder than most, because I had something to prove. Not to Amanda. Not even to the world. To myself. Now here I am years later, sitting in a glass-walled office when HR sends me an email. Please welcome Amanda Lee, our new junior account manager starting Monday. For a moment I thought it was a joke. Some cosmic glitch. But then Monday came. And so did Amanda. When our eyes met, she didn't recognize me, not at first. Time had changed me. I wore confidence like armor now. Hair sharp, suit sharper. But when I introduced myself, I watched the color drain from her face. And oh, that was the first taste. The rest? Oh, that's just beginning. There was no fairy godmother. No windfall. No moment of sudden luck. Just grit. College was an escape, but not an easy one. I didn't have the luxury of focusing only on school. I worked 2 part-time jobs just to afford rent and books. During the day I took notes in lectures, careful and obsessive. At night I stocked shelves at a grocery store and cleaned offices until my fingers went numb. I'd return to my dorm just in time to collapse into bed before doing it all over again. I didn't party. I didn't date. I didn't even go to football games. My friends joked that I was 20 going on 40. But I didn't care. Because I had one goal: become someone no one could ignore. I majored in business marketing. My professors described me as intense, meticulous. I won small awards, earned quiet scholarships, and built a portfolio while others partied. I interned every summer, even unpaid, just to gain experience. There were nights when I fell asleep on top of my textbooks and woke up with the imprint of spiral bindings on my face. And I loved it. The pressure. The pace. The fight to prove myself. It reminded me that I wasn't that girl anymore, not the one hiding behind the encyclopedias or crying in gym class. I was building something. Slowly. Stone by stone. My first job out of college was at a mid-tier agency. They paid me less than I deserved and expected more than I could give. But I didn't complain. I listened, absorbed, adapted. I worked 12-hour days, volunteered for impossible deadlines, and kept a journal of every mistake I made so I'd never make them again. I climbed. One position at a time. Copywriter. Strategist. Junior account lead. I switched firms twice, each time for growth, never comfort. I learned how to speak with authority in rooms filled with older men. I learned how to win clients. How to negotiate salary. How to take a setback and turn it into leverage. And when my father passed unexpectedly in the middle of a major campaign launch, I didn't crumble. I gave the eulogy, caught a red-eye flight home, and closed the pitch 2 days later. Not because I didn't feel grief, but because I'd trained myself to push through it. By 28, I was one of the youngest senior directors in the city. My firm handled brands that appeared on billboards, subways, and Super Bowl commercials. My name was printed in Forbes' under 30 to watch list. But even with all that, some nights I'd find myself scrolling LinkedIn looking for familiar names. And then one day there it was. Amanda Lee seeking opportunities open to work. Her face was older, but her smile still wore the same smug gloss. I stared at that profile for a long time, thumb hovering over the connect button. But I didn't press it. I didn't have to. Because 2 months later, HR sent her resume across my desk. And everything I had fought to bury came back in one breath. Only this time I wasn't the girl with a locker full of garbage. I was the one holding the keys. The morning Amanda started at the firm, I arrived early. Not because I was anxious, but because I wanted stillness. There's a certain calm that fills an empty office floor before the day begins. The hum of the HVAC, the quiet pulse of the city outside the windows, the smell of fresh coffee brewing in the break room. My office sat in the corner, wrapped in glass, the kind of space I used to walk past and imagine from the other side of the door. It was clean, minimalist, sharp. A small stack of pitch decks waited on my desk, but I didn't touch them. Because today wasn't about work. It was about witness. I reviewed Amanda's file again. Junior account manager. Assigned to Team C under Natalie's supervision, a good decision. Natalie was organized, firm, and utterly professional. She had no idea about the history Amanda and I shared. No one did. I made sure of that. At 8:56 a.m. the elevator chimed. I stood just beyond the frosted glass walls of my office, coffee in hand as Amanda stepped into the reception area. She was smaller than I remembered. Not physically but in energy. The once commanding presence was muted now. Her eyes darted from face to face, nervous. She wore a soft beige blazer and heels that looked like they hadn't seen much wear. Her hair was straighter than I remembered. Her expression, a rehearsed smile, the kind people wear when they need this job. When our eyes met, she didn't recognize me. Not immediately. But I knew the exact moment it clicked. Her smile faltered, her pupils dilated slightly. She blinked once, slow, deliberate, and then tilted her head like she was seeing a ghost. I offered nothing. No raised brow. No smirk. Just a calm nod. "Welcome aboard," I said. Her lips parted, maybe to speak, maybe to apologize. But I turned before she could finish the breath. Let her sit with that. The day unfolded like any other. Meetings. Budget reviews. Creative evaluations. But beneath every task, every email I signed off on, I felt the tremor of Amanda's presence just down the hall. By noon she had made her rounds, met the department heads, been shown the kitchen, given her key card. Natalie reported she seemed eager but a little nervous. Of course she was. Later that afternoon I passed her in the hallway. She offered a quick smile, too quick, and said, "I really love the office vibe here." I paused. "I'm glad," I said evenly. "We worked hard to create it." And then I walked away. No chit-chat. No fake familiarity. Just a quiet dismissal. Because power, real power, doesn't always come in raised voices or slammed doors. Sometimes it comes in silence. In making someone who once made you feel invisible suddenly unsure they exist at all. By the end of Amanda's first week, I could see it in her eyes. The realization had settled in like a slow, tightening knot in her chest. She remembered everything. Maybe not every detail, not every hallway prank or snide comment, but she remembered me. And not just as Olivia from high school. No. She remembered the way she had made me feel small, powerless, humiliated. She saw it now reflected back at her, not in revenge, but in composure. I didn't need to raise my voice. I didn't need to confront her. My presence alone, my success, my calm, my title, was louder than any locker room insult she ever threw at me. So she tried. She started lingering near my office more often than her work required. She'd offer tight, eager smiles, hoping to be seen, hoping to be acknowledged. "Hey Olivia," she said one afternoon, voice overly sweet. "I just wanted to say, it's so inspiring to see someone from our school doing this well. You were always so smart." There it was, the first attempt at revisionist history. I gave her a long look. Not hostile. Not warm. Just unreadable. "Thanks," I said coolly. "Though I don't remember you thinking that back then." Amanda's lips twitched, caught in the trap of her own fake charm. She let out a nervous laugh. "Teenagers, right? We were all kind of awful in high school." "No," I said. "You were." And then I turned back to my screen. She didn't respond. She just stood there for a second, the air around her tightening, before walking away. Over the next few days her behavior shifted. She stopped making eye contact in meetings. She flinched when I walked by. She began overcompensating, submitting reports early, offering to stay late, laughing a little too loudly at jokes that weren't funny. It wasn't about being helpful. It was about survival. She knew she was under the microscope not by choice but by consequence. And every time our eyes met, I could see the question behind hers. Is she going to destroy me? I didn't answer that question, not with words. I let the silence speak. Let the anxiety do what it does best when left unchecked. Fester. Because that's the thing about ghosts. They don't scream. They haunt. By week 3, Amanda wasn't trying to impress anyone anymore. He was trying to atone. She started bringing pastries to the break room. Left sticky notes on people's monitors with things like, "You're doing amazing," and "So glad to be part of the team." She complimented coworkers she barely knew. Apologized when she wasn't even wrong. Smiled too wide. Laughed too hard. It was exhausting just watching her. But I didn't call her out. I didn't need to. Because beneath every over-earnest smile was a flicker of desperation. The kind that only comes when someone finally sees the full reflection of what they once were. One afternoon, after a team strategy session, Amanda lingered at the edge of the conference table while everyone else filed out. I didn't move. I knew what was coming. "Hey Olivia. Do you have a second?" I glanced at my watch. "A quick one." She hesitated, visibly collecting herself. "I just wanted to say," she began, "that I think it's really impressive what you've accomplished. Like, genuinely. And I also wanted to acknowledge that maybe I wasn't the nicest person in high school." I raised an eyebrow but didn't speak. He swallowed. "I've thought about it a lot. Some of the things I said, the things I did, they were just... I wasn't trying to be cruel. I just wanted to fit in. That's not an excuse, I know. But I'm not that person anymore." It was almost a good speech. Almost. But guilt doesn't evaporate just because someone finds a more convenient version of themselves. "People like to say they've changed," I said softly. "But the people they've hurt don't get to forget as easily." Amanda looked down. "I understand," she murmured. "I just hope we can work well together." I smiled. Not warmly but professionally. "I don't have a problem working with you, Amanda. Just do your job well." Then I stood up, gathered my notes, and left her standing there with her own unfinished narrative. Because the truth is, forgiveness isn't always earned through apologies. Sometimes it's earned through silence. Through watching someone rise above everything you tried to crush. Through realizing you once mocked the very person you now answer to. And I had no interest in rewriting her comfort into my story. I had earned every sleepless night, every step up the ladder, every ounce of this position. I didn't want revenge. I wanted her to live in the shadow of it. Amanda became the queen of performative kindness. She offered to refill coffee pots before meetings. Sent just checking in emails to team members. Volunteered for weekend research sessions no one asked for. If there was a birthday, she organized a card. If there was a delay, she apologized like it was her personal failure, even when it wasn't. To an outsider, she looked like an engaged, eager team player. But I knew better. It wasn't about the job. It was about me. About trying to rewrite the story she knew I remembered too well. And maybe, just maybe, trying to be seen as anything but the villain she used to be. He smiled too much. Not the natural kind, but the kind that looked like it was pulled from a customer service script. Her laughter came a half-second too late in meetings. Her jokes fell flat. And when her eyes met mine, they never stayed long. It was as if the weight of my presence kept pulling her gaze down. The office wasn't cruel to her, not like she was to me, but it wasn't warm either. People respected her, but they didn't connect with her. There was a transparency to her behavior that made others wary. That's the thing about false kindness, it never quite lands. It always carries a residue of something else. Performance, guilt, fear. One afternoon, I passed the break room and overheard her talking to Natalie. "I just want to be useful, you know? I'm trying really hard to make a fresh start." Natalie's voice was polite but neutral. "You're doing fine, Amanda. Just pace yourself. No need to force anything." I moved on. I didn't need to eavesdrop. Because I knew exactly what was happening. Amanda was unraveling in slow motion. She thought penance meant productivity. That if she stayed late enough, smiled wide enough, and overachieved hard enough, I'd extend her some grand absolution. But that's not how healing works. And I wasn't there to rescue her from her own past. Later that week, she knocked on my office door, awkward, fidgety. "I was wondering," she said, "if maybe you'd want to grab coffee sometime. Just Outside of work. To catch up. I looked up slowly. That wouldn't be appropriate, I replied evenly. I'm your superior. And I think it's best we keep things professional. A flicker of something passed through her face. Disappointment? Maybe both. She nodded quickly, too quickly. Of course. Totally. Sorry, Never mind. She turned and left. I returned to my laptop unbothered. Because in that moment I saw what she was really after. Not forgiveness. Not friendship. Redemption. But some stories don't come with clean redemptions. Some stories, like mine, come with a quiet, daily reminder that power once stolen can be reclaimed in the most elegant way possible, by simply not handing it back. By month 3, Amanda had all but disappeared, not physically but emotionally. The sparkle she once carried like a shield in high school had dulled into something fragile and uncertain. Her posture was different now. Shoulders slightly hunched. Voice softer. She walked through the office like a borrowed guest, careful not to disturb anything. And I didn't have to do much. Just lead. With clarity. With composure. With excellence. The higher I stood, the smaller she seemed. Not because I was cruel, but because karma doesn't shout. It just watches. Patiently. One Thursday morning, our company hosted a major brand strategy presentation, a high-stakes pitch with a Fortune 500 client. Everyone had a part to play. Amanda was assigned to gather trend data and deliver a brief 2-minute segment. She practiced for days. When her turn came, she stood before the conference room screen, palms damp, voice trembling slightly. Halfway through her slide, she misread a statistic and froze. Just for a second. But in a room full of decision-makers, a second is a lifetime. Natalie jumped in smoothly, recovered the moment. The pitch went on. No one scolded Amanda. No one humiliated her. No laughter. No whispers. But I watched her. Watched the way she blinked hard, swallowed her nerves, sat back down like she wanted to disappear into the seams of the carpet. After the meeting, I found her in the hallway, arms crossed, chewing the inside of her cheek. She looked up at me. I blew it, she said quietly. I shook my head. You made a mistake. Everyone does. What matters is how you carry it. He stared at me, searching. For what, I don't know, mercy maybe. Or permission to forgive herself. But I wasn't going to give her either. Because some lessons don't come with consolation. You know, I said calmly, there was a time when you made a mistake and laughed at me in front of 30 people. You made it a show. A joke. Her face flushed. I remember, she whispered. I've never stopped remembering. Good, I replied. Because neither did I. She looked away, shame tightening every line of her face. But here's the difference, I added. I don't need to humiliate you back. You're doing that just fine on your own. I walked away. That was the last real conversation we ever had. A few weeks later, she resigned. Sent a carefully worded email thanking the company for the opportunity and growth. No one asked questions. No one begged her to stay. When she packed her desk, she didn't say goodbye. And I didn't look up. Because the story had already closed. I didn't destroy her. I didn't sabotage her. I simply let her stand in the reality she once created for someone else. Only now the roles had shifted. Now she was the forgotten one. Now she was the one hoping to be seen. Me. I sat in the same glass-walled office, watching the skyline glitter with everything I'd earned. I thought of the girl I used to be. The girl in the locker room. The girl no one stood up for. She wasn't gone. She had just grown teeth. I smiled. Karma hadn't failed me. I had just been busy working overtime.